On election night, scores of people took to social media to tell how they spontaneously woke up between the hours of 3 and 5 a.m. It happened to so many of us across all spiritualities, walks of life, and belief systems that we recognized immediately something was happening. We collectively witnessed the divine feminine erupt like a volcano and begin to flow between us. We knew instinctively we were being called. There's an old saying in the Southern Baptist Church that says when you're early in your spiritual journey, you have to survive on the milk of the gospel. But as you grow, you graduate to the meat. We're now at that point. Gone are the days of the positivity-only message we've all clung to. We're being gathered and called to take on the mantle of the harder work. We're being directed to embrace both the darkness and the light, because without both, neither can thrive. The divine feminine is here to regain her truth, to exercise her power, and we are the ones who will make it happen. Hi, my name is Carol Chia. I'm a former Southern Baptist, and I'm finding my way back to the practices of my ancestors, following the path that's rooted in my DNA. On this podcast, I'll share the history of the folk magic of the region and share my practice as I learn and grow in knowledge. We'll talk to people from all walks of life who follow different paths of spirituality, looking for the commonalities and the way we're more alike than different. If you're searching for a way to connect to spirit, pick up your walking stick and let's get to exploring. Fear is a powerful emotion. It's one step away from hate. In some ways, it's useful. It reveals danger, preparing us for a fight. But if it's allowed to linger, to fester, it will turn into a hate so strong that it will keep us from achieving what we're called to do. It will render us powerless and turn us into the very problem we rage against. When I was a Southern Baptist, I was taught that I was weak and unworthy, that I was supposed to approach God as a worm crawling on my belly, begging for approval. When I began this journey into witchcraft, I approached my practice the same way. I ran from power because I didn't feel worthy. After the election, I closed my altar. I stepped away, feeling overwhelmed and defeated. But I kept popping awake at 3 a.m., feeling like there was someone in the room with me. The energy would make my hair stand on end. So I went to my altar. I realized that I couldn't run from the energy, and it was time to face it. What happened to me was, at the risk of sounding hyperbolic, life-changing. I approached spirit not in the timid way I had in the past, but with a determination, with a resolve that focused on working with spirit on equal footing. I was done with the fear I had been indoctrinated with. I knew in my bones it was time to let spirit know I was ready to walk with them, not cower behind. During my first meditation of that day, I was hit with download after download. I took to TikTok to explain what had happened to me, and that video went a little viral. Well, viral for me anyway. I started receiving tons of DMs and comments from people who had been experiencing the same things. It was the beginning of a movement. Later that evening, I was called back to my altar. During that session, I met for the first time a deity that was not associated with my Celtic heritage. I came face to face with Hecate. But before I tell you about that encounter, I need to fill you in on my journey thus far. When I started this witchcraft journey, I concentrated on connecting to my heritage and to the ancestors of it. I felt drawn to Brigid, the Celtic goddess of healing, poetry, and fertility. She would come to me during meditation, leading me through vibrant bursts of color. She showed me my ancestors. She is the one who brought my mom to me to show me that Mom had found her people in the other world. Brigid was the goddess who healed my spirit in preparation for what was to come. As my practice became more ingrained in me, I was approached with other deities and guides. The Morrigan came to me, dressed in a crow feather robe. She helped me to begin to understand the balance between the light and the dark. She revealed the importance of balance, and that in order to achieve it, we must not only accept when situations are difficult, we must embrace those times. For it's only when we accept the dark that the light can penetrate. So, at my second altar session that night, I opened my circle and called out to deity. I grounded myself in preparation, or at least I thought I was prepared. I was rendered immobile. My hands, palms up, were frozen into claws. My vision was taken from me. My breath was taken from me. I was unable to move, unable to see, unable to breathe. But through this, I was calm. And then she spoke. The goddess of witchcraft, the guardian of crossroads, Hecate. She began speaking to me in single words that are burned into my memory. Feminine, power, rising, protection, strength. And then she began pushing me downward until my face was inches from the burning candles on my altar. As she did this, she placed a robe on my back. She told me it was time to take the mantle. She told me it would weigh me down, but I was strong enough to carry it. It was only after that she restored my vision and my breath, and I could move again. I checked the time, and the whole encounter took less than 5 minutes. She changed my life in less than 5 minutes. Now, I'm sure some of you have checked out by now. You've written me off as one of those spiritual crazies, and that's okay. I'm not here for you. But for those of you who have dealt with this kind of power, it's time to get to work. Disclaimer here. I am not telling you that it's time to follow me. That's not the mantle she gave me. She is telling us as a collective that it's time to begin embracing the divine feminine that has been calling to us and create community. So let's spend some time discussing what the divine feminine is and how we can come together to work within it. When we think about the divine feminine, no doubt we picture in our heads a beautiful woman surrounded by light. And while this is an accurate representation of part of her aspect, it's important to understand that divine feminine also represents the death of things, the death of relationships that no longer serve us, the death of ideals long held dear. The divine feminine forces us as individuals to examine the deepest parts of ourselves and begin rooting out those things that are holding us back. Divine feminine energy is painful, beautiful, light, and dark. It is balance. And in order to achieve balance, we must travel through some very dark places. Let's use an analogy here. Say you want to get in shape. Just saying so doesn't achieve anything. Work has to happen, right? You have to start lifting weights, putting time in on the treadmill. You have to break a sweat. You have to push play on that workout video when all you want to do is sit on the couch with a bag of Doritos. But if you dedicate yourself to getting fit, you start to see positive changes, and those changes motivate you to keep going. This is what happens when we start to turn our attention inward into discovering those parts of ourselves that need to be addressed. Internalized racism, misogyny, homophobia, self-doubt. When those dark shadows are brought to the surface and exposed to the light, they can begin to be eliminated. We've seen this self-love movement for years, but it doesn't dig below the surface. It focuses on making us feel better, but it doesn't make us into better people. Listen, I'm all for a spa day and self-affirmations, but if you aren't discovering what is at the core of your personality, you're putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. You will never grow past it. You will bleed out while you stick Post-it notes on your mirror about how awesome you are. Actual self-love exposes the gross things. It lays bare all of your personality flaws, and it reveals where we need to do the work. We have to love ourselves enough to work on ourselves. I finally started watching Agatha All Along, and The Witch's Road is a perfect representation of the journey we must take to achieve our goals. The road is full of challenges that we must face before we can be useful to the collective. So my challenge to you is to go inward before you reach out. Get to know your shadows before you try to be light for others. The divine feminine archetype embraces the maiden, mother, and crone, and how you experience it will be based on which phase you're currently in. The maiden represents the innocence of youth. This phase encourages growth through creativity and self-discovery. It encourages you to be spontaneous, and it creates a sense of wonder. The mother aspect is nurturing and protective. It encourages empathy and cultivates the need for supporting the well-being of others. The crone, which is the phase I'm in, is the wise woman. She's experienced much and has seen the good and the bad of society as a whole. She is intuition, healing, and support. She represents a deep understanding of the self, of the inner workings. She is the community builder. She's not concerned with the pettiness that hinders growth. She doesn't have time for crap. She doesn't care about looks, what's popular, or anything else that pulls attention away from the actual importance of things. Think of the crone as one great big eye roll. The crone will tell you the truth, even if it hurts your feelings, but she will also hold your hand and guide you if you're willing to do it. All of these phases can occur at any time of your life. It doesn't have to coincide with your physical age. Since we're spiritual beings, these phases will rotate depending on the part you're supposed to be playing at any given time. Let's also discuss gender and the divine feminine. Gender is a societal construct created by men who develop the patriarchal structure we all live under. Divine feminine doesn't follow that structure. The aspects of divine masculine and divine feminine have nothing to do with how you identify, and absolutely nothing to do with the parts that are connected to your physical body. Just as the divine masculine deals with creating, doing, and logic, the divine feminine deals with intuition, nurturing, and experiencing. They are at the same time intertwined and separate, each playing their roles. We all contain both aspects, but now is the time for the feminine to take the stage. But how do you do it? As I've said before, working on discovering your inner self. Work on rooting out what's hidden in the darkest places of you. Then connect with others. Build community. Join a yoga class, a book club. Volunteer at a soup kitchen or with community action committees. Pick up a notebook and start writing. Get outside and experience nature. Allow the power of the feminine access to your spirit. And hold on. The future is here, and she is shifting reality. Thank you so much for joining me on Solitary Magic. As always, I would love to hear from you. I'll leave all my info in the show notes, so please reach out. And until next time, may the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your fields. Until we meet again, may the goddess hold you in the hollow of her hand.